Hey, what's up? This is Scott with Level Up Tutorials, and in this video, we're going to create our very first animation in Principle, and you're going to be just amazed at how easy this is. It's going to be just super effortless, and you're going to be really surprised just how much you can accomplish quickly within Principle. Let's get going on that now. Okay, so now that we have Principle downloaded and added to our dock, we can just go ahead and simply select it. Now, if this is your first time opening Principle, it will prompt you for either to continue your trial or enter a serial. Since I have purchased Principle, I don't need to do that anymore, and I just have the full version here, and this is what it will then look like. Now, what's great about this is that this should feel very familiar. If you've used Sketch or any of these apps before, I mean, even many iOS apps have a very similar sort of just key interface, right? Where we have our tools up top here, we have some information, and we have artboards and layers over here on the left, and we have our canvases. And we have our artboard here in the center. Now, instantly, you'll notice a few interesting things. We have like tutorials up here, and now, where this differs from Sketch is that we have this green outline around here, which we'll cover more, and we have this lightning bolt here. Now, if we select this lightning bolt, you'll see a whole bunch of options pop up. We have tap, long press, scroll begin, scroll release, scroll end, drag begin, drag end, touch up, touch down. So what's great about these is these are essentially the triggers that are going to trigger an animation from one artboard to another. And that's really how you need to think of this. Each artboard you make is going to be a state of your animation. So, for instance, if we wanted to animate a rectangle growing in size, just simply growing in size, one thing we can do is first go ahead and draw a rectangle. We can do that by selecting rectangle up top here, and you'll notice here we have our rectangle. I can adjust its size, it does some snapping here for us. And if you don't want to use that dragging snapping, you can always use the alignment tools in the top left. Select align center center or center center horizontal. And as you can see here, we have a rectangle. Now, what I want this to happen is when I click on it, I want this to spring open into nearly the full width of this canvas. Okay, so now that we have this, let's just go ahead and select the artboard itself. You can do that by clicking on this white space. You'll see that we have these borders here, or if you wanted to, you can select it in the layers over here on the left. With the artboard selected, we can do Command D to duplicate, or you can right click on it and duplicate artboard. Okay, so at this point, I want to zoom out a little bit. We have two artboards. By the way, if you hold space, just like many other applications, you'll get this grabby hand. So like Illustrator, or Photoshop, or Sketch, you hold the space button, click and drag, you can move yourself around here. Okay, so we have these two artboards. You'll now notice the green outline is around the one right here. The green outline simply just presents the one that's selected or the one that we're working within. You'll notice even when the layer is selected, that particular artboard has the green outline. Okay, so like I said, we want to think of each of these artboards as sort of a state of our animation. If you're used to working in a sort of animation, this is sort of a end frame, right? Not necessarily a keyframe, because we can do some keyframing, but this is like the end of a particular state of animation. So let's go ahead, and at this point, I can actually just click to make this bigger. We could do this mathematically by adjusting the values over here in the info bar, but right now, this is just a quick demo. Okay, so I'm just going to drag it and make it larger. Okay, super cool. Now what we want to do is we want to animate from this state to this state on click. You'll notice we have this window right here that's sort of been hanging out. We haven't mentioned it for a reason. You'll notice when I click this back arrow, it has the first frame. And we have this little cursor. We also have this little camera here that allows us to record this. This is essentially where we're going to be seeing all of our animations in action, so you'll probably want to have this somewhere visible almost at all times unless you sort of know what you're doing. So as you can see here, it starts at this initial state. If I were to select this, you can now see that this is what's present here in our animation window. But obviously we want this to actually animate because that's the purpose of this application. So let's go ahead and select this square, select this lightning bolt, and let's select tap. Now you'll notice something interesting happened. It created a third artboard for us with the current state. Now, simply by selecting tap, this is the default functionality. When you click an action, it's going to create an artboard for you with a new state, and that can be really handy. However, we already had the end state, and we essentially just wanted to connect this state to this state. So let's go ahead and actually delete artboard number 3, and let's try this again. This is one of the cooler features of this application. We can now select the lightning bolt, select tap, but instead of just clicking it, click and drag. And you'll notice we have this neat, nice little arrow here, and we can drag and say, on tap, go to artboard 2, and we now have an arrow up top indicating an animation. So this is pretty magical. It's insanely easy, but we've now just set up an animation, and this arrow indicates that this is animating into this. Let's go ahead and check how this works here. In our animation pane, I can actually make this quite a bit larger. And let's go ahead and click this refresh. And now what we do is we can just simply tap on this square, and you'll notice it grows. I can click the rewind button and do it again. Super cool. Okay, so in addition to that, we can also really tweak this animation, right? Notice how everything is defaults. If we select this layer tap arrow right here, this essentially is saying, hey, if we tap on layer, which is the name of this layer, then go ahead and do this animation. You'll see we have a whole bunch of properties. For instance, we have X, width, and height. And we have some what look like timelines here. Now, these are very similar. If you've ever used After Effects or anything like that, they have these diamonds to sort of indicate a key for each individual property. That essentially means the start value, the end value. And if we wanted this animation to take longer, we could drag all of these out to 1 second. Now, I'm going to be going over all of this stuff in much greater detail as we go, so don't worry about it too much. The only thing I want to focus on right now is essentially you click this layer tap and it brings up this layers menu. Now, another way you can bring this up is simply by clicking this Animate button. You can see they pop up right here. If we wanted to change the easing to make it more of a spring, we can select where it says default here and just select spring. Now let's go ahead and do that for all of these properties. Again, easings is something that I'm going to be talking considerably more about as we go, so do not worry if none of this makes sense to you in terms of easing. But as you can see here, simply by selecting spring here, we're now going to have a nice springing animation. To see this in action, let's head back here, click our rewind, select this, and you can see it now bounces, right? There's a little bit more personality there. It springs open. Now, every single time we're clicking this, we're having to click this rewind button to get it to go back. How about we want to have this do the opposite? When you click on this, now it should go back. So again, we can select our square, select our lightning bolt, and click and drag tap over to our artboard 1. And now, when we select this, it goes back. And just like that, you've created an interactive animation, and it has really nice easing patterns already and everything, right? I mean, this was extremely simple, and you had to do hardly anything, right? We created a rectangle, 2 artboards, and dragged some arrows, and all of a sudden we have this working animation that we could export and show off on Dribble if we wanted to. Obviously, this isn't something that you would want to show off. It's not that cool, but this goes to show you just how insanely easy it is to create really super cool things with Principle. So in the next video, we're going to be diving in a little bit more into the tools that we have available. We're going to be talking about sort of the info bar, And then we're going to be diving more into the animation menu. We're going to be talking about easings. We're going to be talking about different styles of interactions. We're going to be talking about different layers and groups and stuff like that. And we're going to be covering importing documents directly from Sketch. If you don't have Sketch, don't worry about it, because you can always just make your animations directly in Principle if you'd like. However, working in an application like Sketch is something that many people already do, and you maybe can just convert some of your already created designs into super cool animations. Alright, so I'm really excited to keep going. I love Principle. It's an application I use all the time. I think you're really going to like it as well, creating really awesome animative interfaces. So as always, this is Scott with Level Up Tutorials. If you want extra content for this series, I'm going to be covering some of my very most favorite inspiration items that I found on the Facebook group. I'm going to be covering exactly how the creator made them. I'm going to be showing you exactly how we can recreate them from scratch. And you're going to be building some just incredible stuff. So as always, this is Scott with Level Up Tutorials. If you have any questions or comments, leave a comment on the video. Hit me up at Level Up Tutorials on Twitter or Facebook. Head to store.leveluptutorials and help support the creation of these free tutorials. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.